Welcome everyone. This is Dr. Basit Qureshi with CS101 podcast for week number 2. Today we're going to look at a tutorial on how to use Raptor for making flowcharts. I have downloaded the Raptor. I've shown this thing in the class how to download it. So on my course website, if you can scroll down, you can find a link for Raptor. So if you click on the link, it will take you to this website where you can download Raptor. So it's available here. You can download Raptor from this website. It's a very small application. It would take only about 5 megabytes of space on your hard drive. So once you've installed it and when you run it, you get to see this interface. So this is our Raptor editing area where we're going to create our flowcharts. We have also seen how to work with the document that I've provided on the website, which is writing computing routines using flowcharts. We have covered some of this during the class, so I'm going to show you how do we make a very simple flowchart. But since we have done very basic stuff in the classroom, I'm going to look at how to work with decisions and nested decisions and a simple loop. So as our first exercise, I'm going to build this small flowchart in Raptor. So this program requires the user to type his age. We increment the age by 1 and then we display the age on the prompt. So I will take myself to the Raptor console. This is the starting point, the focal point where we start. So first we need to define a variable. In this case, the variable was age. A variable is a place where we hold information. So I'm going to generate a process symbol here. I'm going to click between start and end, so it's going to create a box. Well, I didn't save it, so let me first save this thing somewhere. So there you go, I'm saving a grab file. So here it is. I'm going to double click on this. When you double click on it, it is expecting you to name a variable. So here, I'll just go with what we have in the notes. So age is a variable. We can set its value to 0, and we're done. So here it shows you that age is a variable, and we have stored 0 in age. Now we want to take input from the user. We have to ask the user to give his age. So I'm going to select the input callout, and I'm going to click here. So it creates the input calling. Again, I double click on it. This is where you type in the prompt, a message which will appear on the screen. Now remember, if you want to type a string or if you want to type a sentence, it needs to go between 2 quotes. So here I'm going to type, please type your age. And here I'm going to provide a variable which is going to store the age. So we'll type age. Notice that we have previously defined a variable. I intend to use the same variable. So I will select the same variable. I'll type age with an A capital. So we're done here. We press done. There you go. So it creates the input type. Please type your age and get a variable which indicates that you're taking an input. So the input would be stored in the variable age. Now what we need to do is we need to increment the value which is provided by the user, increment by 1. So I can do this thing in the process symbol, using the process symbol. So here's my process box. Double click on it. I want to set the value of age, A capital, age 2, age plus 1. So whatever the value is stored in age by the user would be incremented, would be increased by 1. We're done here. Now we need to display the age on the screen. So displaying is an output process. So we're going to click here. Again, double click here. So this is the output. Here we're going to display the age of the user. Done. So this is my small, very basic flowchart. It's complete. Now the Raptor allows you to simulate the running of this program. So I'm going to click on the play button here, and you can see the green light moving around on the symbols of the flowchart indicating the current execution place. So here it's, since we type please type your age, you can see in the window which just popped up, it says please type your age. I'm going to type in an age, so I'm going to type 23, press OK. So 23 is saved in age. Now it says put age on the screen. So you can see the same on my console, it has put 24. Where did 24 come from? Because we have typed 23 and we incremented the age by 1. So now the age is 24 and it displays 24 on the screen. There you go. So this is our first ever program execution using Raptor by making a flowchart. I'm going to clear the console. Let's look at another example using decisions. So go back to my document over here. Imagine that we have to check the age of the user. We can display a simple message. For instance, if the age is larger than 18, we can say you are an adult. If the age is between 18 and 12, we can say you are a teenager. If the age is less than 12, then we can display a message saying that you are a child. So let's go ahead and modify the same program. So go back to my Raptor program. We need to modify this. So once the user has typed his age, we can create a decision over here. We can say selection, click here. I want to know if the age is larger than 18. So age is larger than 18. Done. So if it is larger than 18, we go on the yes side. Otherwise, we go on the left side or the no side. So if the age is 18, you need to display a message on the screen saying that you are an adult. So we're going to bring the output box over here, and we're going to display a message, you are an adult. Done. Now, what if the age is less than 18, or less than or equal to 18 in this case? So there will be no, and then we have to play here. Now we have two options. Either it is a teenager, which means the age is between 12 and 18, or is a child, which means the age is less than 12. So we have to decide that, and the best option is to have a decision box over here as well. So in this case, this is a decision inside another decision, which we call as nested decision. So here, I'm going to check if the age is, now when we come over here, it definitely means that the age is larger than 18. It's larger than 18. By the way, I think I made a mistake. I'm going to close this for a minute. This should be age is larger than 18. Yes, we go here. Age is larger than 18. No, then we go here. No, it's okay. No mistake. Anyways, so coming back to here. So if age So when we come here, it means the age is definitely 18 or less than 18. So we need to check if age is bigger than 12. Done. So if age is bigger than 12, yes, it means that we have to display you're a teenager. So let's do that. Then we click here and can write a message. You are a teenager. Close the bracket, or sorry, close the double quotes. Here we are, we're done. Now if the age is not bigger than 18, which means age is 12 or less than 12, so here we have to display a message saying you are a child. Done. So you are a child. Now after all of this is complete, all the control comes down to this statement which we have put previously. Age equals age plus 1. And we put the age of the person. So let's leave that for the moment. Let's execute, let's run the program, let's see how it goes. So I'm going to save that. Click on execute. There you go. It's asking for an age. Let's try and run this thing. So first, let's type 22. 22 is bigger than 18, so it should appear here, you're an adult, and then it should print 23 on the console. Let's see that. Okay. So you saw that. It executed. All the green highlighted boxes appeared on this path, and it displays you are an adult and 23 is the age. Let's execute this thing again, but this time we're going to give it a different age. Type an age. Let's say I'm going to type 9. So 9 means that we should come over here. Age is bigger than 18. No. So we go here to the second decision. Age is bigger than 12. No. So we should come here. We should print you are a child on the console and then increment the age by 1. Let's see how it goes. It's okay. There you go. Took the same path as we determined. And now it's printing on the screen. You are a child. Your age is 10 now. Let's try the third option. So go. You type an age in between. So I'm going to type 16. Okay. So you can see that it came here. It will print you're a teenager. You're a teenager. And it prints 16 plus 1, 17. So we're done here. Let's save this file. And we had looked at an example of how to play with nested conditions. Okay, so we're done with that. Let's move on to the next topic, which is working with counters and loops. So a counter is very necessary for a loop to execute. Any kind of loop needs to have two major requirements. The first one is to have a condition, and the second one is to have a counter which is going to work with the condition. So I'm going to create a very simple program which is going to print 10 numbers. Now one way to do this thing is have outputs like this displaying each of these numbers. So put 1 and then another one goes here. We put 2 and so on. But I don't think this is a very good way of doing it. So instead we can use a loop. So I'm going to get rid of this. To work with the loop, you need to have a counter. So let's define a counter here. Let's call this counter C. And we set its value to 0. Remember, a counter is essentially a variable, which is going to store some value. So in the previous tutorial, previous example, you have seen that we defined age as a variable. Here I have defined C as a variable, and we have stored 0 in C. So let's say we're going to put a condition over here. This condition is going to determine if I'm going to have a value, a certain value. There you go. C is less than 10. So if the condition is met, if C is less than 10, we go on the yes part. Otherwise, we go on the no part. So we have seen this thing again in the previous tutorial. Now, a loop essentially allows you to go back, to the condition. That's a major difference between a decision and a loop. So you're going to see I'm going to put the loop control over here now, and I'm going to delete this decision. But what's important to know is it looks very similar to the loop. In the loop, you have a condition. The condition has a yes and no output. So whenever the condition becomes true, we go outside the loop. Whenever the condition is not true, we keep in the loop. So I'm going to delete my decision that I put over here earlier. So here's my variables, which contains 0 stored in variable C, and this is the starting point of the loop. And here I'm going to have a condition. So if I double click on it, you can put the condition here. We're going to say as long as C is less than 10, as long as C is less than 10, if it is less than 10, then go outside. If it is not less than 10, then repeat. If it is not less than 10, then repeat. So for the sake of executing this program, I'm going to change this thing to C is equal to 10. So now it will be more clear. But if C is 0 and C equals 10, then we go outside. If it is not 10, then we keep inside the loop. So what I want to do is I want to increment. Whenever I enter the loop, I want to increment by 1. But before that, I'm going to display a value on my console. So I'm going to output this over here. So if C is 10, if not 10, then we go over here and we print the current value of C. So I'll just display C on the screen. Now you might notice when I run this program, it will keep running because the value of C is not changing. Let's save it and execute and see what happens. So you can notice that it keeps rolling in the same loop. Meanwhile, it is displaying lots of zeros on the screen. You can see what's going on here. So it's printing lots of zeros on the screen. So this phenomenon is referred to as an infinite loop. The program has become stuck. This is one of the things that we don't want to have, a stuck program. So I'm going to stop this and see why is it stuck. So when C is 0, we come inside the loop. The condition is not true. We display the value of C, which is currently 0 on the screen, and we go back. So effectively, we're not changing the value of C. This is why it just keeps going on and on and on forever. So I need to have a process here which is going to allow me to change the value of C. So we're going to say C equals C plus 1. So what will happen now is it will go through again in the loop, but every time you're changing the value of C. So the first time it was 0, next time it becomes 1, next time it becomes 2. It will keep going until the condition is met. So the last time it comes here, C will be 10, and because the condition is true now, so we will go outside the loop. Let's execute this now, but before that, let me clear the console so you can see what's going on. Let's run this. So this is the first go, second go, third go, fourth go. Meanwhile, you can see this thing on the tracing part. It is showing you the current value of C, which is changing. And this is reflected over here in the output console. And the last time it comes here, C was 10, so we stopped the program. And you can see it printed everything from 0 to 9. So using a loop, you can print 10 numbers instead of putting all of those output calls as many times. Okay, so here we are. In the previous example, we saw how to run a simple loop which would print all the numbers between 0 and 10, up to 10. So what if I do not want to print all the numbers from 0 to 10? What if I want to print only the even numbers? For instance, if I want to print 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So in that case, what do we have to modify here in the program? So you were saying this thing that we have to determine which numbers are even, and we only print those numbers. So it's very obvious that we have to modify some of the flowchart in this area. So here's what we can do. This is one of the possible solutions. Within the loop, whenever we come over here, we want to check if the number C is even. So what we can do is we need to put a decision because we need to check. Here's my decision. And this is my condition for even. C mod 2 equals 0. C mod 2 equals 0. By the way, this is the percentage sign which you can type by pressing shift number 5. So if a number, the value of C is even, it will give you 0. If it is odd, it will give you 1. So we can easily check that now. Now, if the value is 0, this means the number is even. If it is even, then we can print this. So I'm going to move this over here. There you go. So if it is not even, we do not print the number. Rest of the code stays the same. So let's execute that. But before this, I need to clear my console so you can see the changes. Yeah, you have to hide that. There you go. See, whenever this is even, it goes here. If it is odd, it skips that. There you go. The run is complete. Set printed numbers from 0 to 8. So, welcome back. This is a continuation of the same lecture. We took a small break here. Now, we're going to look at how we can have many repeatable things going in turns. So, in the notes, we have something called nested loops. The concept of nested loop allows you to have a loop inside another loop. So we're going to look at an example. I'm going to pick another example. So let's create a new. So we create a new project here. Nested loops. So as always, we remember that for a loop, we need to have a counter. Let's define a counter. Let's call this thing C. Set to 0. Done. Now we're going to have a loop. A loop is going to loop over the condition for a certain number of times. So let's say my condition is 5. C equals 5. So I'm putting in the same what I've done in the previous example. Obviously, to increment the value is very important. So we're going to have this over here. We're going to say C equals C plus 1. This is going to allow us to advance the loop. So this loop is going to run 5 times. When it's done, we come over here. Now I want this loop to print numbers. So we're going to print the value of C. Done. Let's execute the program. Let's see what it prints. There you go. Prints 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. So what if instead of printing C, I want to print another variable? So I need to define another variable here. We can call this thing P, and you can store a certain value in there. Let's store 5. Done. So instead of printing C, I want to print P. There you go. So we define a variable P, we stored 5 in there. Notice the value of P is not changing, so it's going to print the value of P this many times. How many times? The number of times the loop is going to run. So you can see this now. There you go. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So it printed the value of P 5 times because the loop is running 5 times. If I want to print more number of times, all I have to do is change the value of this condition. For instance, if I wanted to print 10 times, then you need to change this thing to 10. Now let's see, what if I want to repeat the whole process, the whole of this process, if I want to repeat this thing a certain number of times. So what I want to do is I want to print these 5s, and then let's say 4s, and then 3s, and then 2s, and then 1s, and so on. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to create another loop on top of this, so this loop will stay in the other loop. So I'm going to create the loop here. There you go. So this entire thing should come inside here because I want it to loop. So there you go. You can see that this loop is inside the other loop. I did not put the condition for it. So here, let's put a condition. While we keep running this thing until P becomes 0. So I wanted to show you this particular example because in the previous example, in the previous loop, the value of C is incrementing. So we start from 0, we go up to 5, and then we stop the loop. This time I want to use the decrementing. So we're going to start with P equals 5. We're going to decrement it, decrease it 1 by 1 until it becomes 0. So when P becomes 0, we stop. There you go. Now we have to change the value of P. So when the loop is finished, when we print something in here, when we come back to the loop, here I would like to print, or I want to decrease the value after this loop is done. Here I'm going to decrease the value of P. We say P equals P minus 1. There you go. So we're done here. Let's look at the outputs. I'm going to clear this and we start executing our program. Let's see what happens. So here's my program. Here's the output console. We run this. There you go. Inside the loop, the value of C is 1, P is 5. So it executes and it's printing 5. Obviously it's going to do it 5 times. So after 5 times it decremented the value of P. P becomes 1 less. It goes back over here. And there you go. Now what happened over here is it did not print what we wanted it to print. The reason being that when this loop is finished, we should have put this over here. So whenever this loop is finished, we say P equals P minus 1. We go back to the previous loop. So P was 5 in the beginning. P becomes 4. So when P becomes 4, we go back to this loop over here. Is P equal to 0? No. So we should go in and then we check C is 5. Now unfortunately we didn't change this thing. This is why it gave us undesirable results. What happened was that when we come back over here, the value of C is still 5. We did not change this. So it will not go inside the loop. It will not print the new value of P. Instead, it will finish the loop, decrement P by 1. So this is why nothing happened over here. We were expecting it to print 4s and then 3s and 2s and 1s, but it did not materialize. So what we have to do is we have to decrement. Whenever we say P equals P minus 1, we have to say C equals 0. We want to set the value of C to 0 so that we can go inside the loop. So here I'm going to create another of this process, and here we're going to say C equals 0. So we reset the value of C. Now let's see what happens. We're going to clear the console, run it, and now you'll see the difference. So that's the first 5. It's going to run 5 times. Whenever C becomes 5, we decrement the value of P and then set the C to 0. So now you can see the C is printing 4s. So it will print 5 times. Then we go and decrement the value of P becomes 3. C is set to 0. And then we go. So it's printing 3s now. It will continue until we reach 0. We need to increase the play speed so it will finish. And there you go. So what we desired, 5s and 4s and 3s and 2s and 1s. Stop the program, save it, and we have learned how to work with nested loops. Now go ahead and look at the example given in the notes. Try to do this thing in Raptor for you to learn more. There are a few more exercises given over here. Go ahead and try them by yourselves, and I'm sure you're going to master the flowcharts. That's it from me for today. Thank you very much. See you next time.